Welcome to Hospitality on the Rise, the podcast about the people shaping the hospitality industry and their journeys. I'm your host, Alice Cheng, founder and CEO of Culinary Agents, hospitality's go-to hiring platform. And I'm here to give you your dose of virtual mentorship. Here, we'll be sharing the stories, lessons learned, and advice from hospitality leaders who've carved out their own path to success. After all, this industry is where many get their start and go on to do incredible things. Whether you're a pro, starting out, or just love the hustle, this podcast highlights what makes hospitality extraordinary: the people. I'm so excited to have T. Martin here with us today. T is the co-proprietor of Commander's Palace, which is a modern New Orleans cooking meets haute Creole in New Orleans. If you haven't been there, just run there. Le Petit Bleu, picnic provisions and whiskey. She's board member of Idea Village, TEP Center, and also board chair and co-founder of New Orleans Culinary and Hospitality Institute, also known as NOCHI, which is a nonprofit organization that educates a diverse community of learners to sustain an ever-evolving hospitality industry. I'm going to stop there. T, welcome.
So good to be here.
Thank you for joining us today. Well, amongst all these things, I have multiple pages here of wonderful accomplishments that you have achieved over the years. But what they don't say is what a dynamic personality and person that you are. So let's hear from you how you got started with hospitality and how did you grow your love for it?
Well, I guess a lot of people would say that was inevitable. My mother was a lady named Ella Brennan who started sort of our family's restaurant business growing. It was she and her siblings who did all that. It wasn't inevitable for me. I went off to graduate school and was doing other things, and she actually discouraged me. And then one day, when I was doing commercial real estate and other things before my aunt Dottie called me one day and said, "Your mom's gonna have heart surgery tomorrow." And I went, "Okay." And so on the drive home, I just decided to move home and go into business with my mom, a mentor, and best friend.
That's amazing. We hear a lot of stories about, especially immigrant stories, but also just, stories of hardworking families where, they come from the restaurant industry and the parents do it so that the kids don't have to work in the restaurants and they discourage it or they're like, no, go do other, I'm doing this so that you can go do other things. Right.
Yeah,
So, but this industry is like the center of gravity, it just like
yeah,
pulls.
yeah. Well, she later told me she was hoping the whole damn time that I would
Right.
come with
Oh,
it. But
it was part of her strategy. Smart woman, smart woman. Um, but so throughout, take us through while you were doing other things and exploring. Were you always working in the industry and feeling like this was something that you were going to come back to anyway?
I didn't. I was very interested in finance and real estate. And I'm interested in many, many things. I always knew I was interested in business. I'm interested in business and leadership and everything to do with that. So I was always a student of all of that.
Yeah,
But I
and
didn't. It was really a decision, during a 4-hour drive that was probably made in an instant.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, hey, however it happens, right? And here you
yes.
are.
Yeah.
Um, and and obviously you're in this industry and for those who are listening who hope to be an owner one day or aspires to be, all those other skills come in real handy
Yeah. Yeah. I
when
mean, I'm glad
you're
I did all those other
yeah.
things. And particularly people in family businesses. Some people just go straight into a family business and this is odd, but they never have the feeling of knowing what it could be like to be fired. I mean,
Yeah.
that's weird to think about, but a lot of people in family business don't ever experience that. So I was very glad I did the other things that I did, and it taught me a lot. And some of it about this industry. I mean, I didn't want to sit in an office. I wanted to be out doing things. I don't mind being in an office for part of the time. I love it, but so I learned a lot about that kind of stuff. When I was
Yeah.
hanging out of airplanes, taking pictures of apartment complexes in the southeast, I was like, sure, this is for me, but it was interesting.
Yeah. Hey, you pick up your experiences and you bring it to the next thing, right? And so
Right.
so now you're taking over and you step into a leadership position kind of off the bat, right? I mean, you're kind of coming in and taking over, taking the reins or coming in at a high level. What was that like, kind of stepping into a leadership position in a very established like
Well,
environment?
I did some other things first and along the way and sort of started this little food company and things as I was sort of getting acclimated here. But I had been around the restaurant my whole entire life. And I had gone off and gotten an MBA. And then I did work in the kitchen um, under some dude named Emeril. And,
I've
but it
heard
was
of him.
great. Um, and we were good friends and we were all grew up together. My cousin Lally and Emeril and I, it was a lot of fun, but we were working hard. And so I didn't just go right in, I had
Oh,
done the
yeah, you earned your
schooling
your
and then I
stripes
did the
and
culinary, so, um, and then I, slipped in and, did a lot of things. But yeah, because I'd gotten the education, it was a little easier, I think, for folks to accept.
yeah, yeah, and naturally, you're around it. It is kinda like second nature, probably, a lot of the things, and sounds like a whole lot of fun,
Yeah. You
that
don't
crew.
realize what you're picking up when you're just around something. Like, I remember some internships that I had that I was like I actually spent a day at Stars in, Jeremiah Towers restaurant, and just what I learned in one day by just hanging out, and so a lifetime of hanging out, there was just a lot I had been lucky enough to absorb.
Yeah, and this was how many years ago? It was a couple decades ago you kinda came into the reins of this, right?
Yeah,
I
well,
didn't
thank you
look at
for
the
saying
timeline.
that. A little longer
Oh,
than that, but
I mean
I
I
mean,
mean,
I've been working here since, '86 or something, but my cousin Lally and I truly officially took over in 1997. So
yeah.
it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, and you've done some really wonderful things. Sometimes it's, when you take over, something that's established and you think about, are you now kind of pressured with how do we grow or how do we take this to the next level? Did you come in with all these different ideas and, between the evolving industry, quite frankly, and the way that diners' habits were changing and more were traveling and looking for things and social media, how are you thinking about growth when you were kind of
Yeah. I mean, yes, 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 and yes. I mean, we wanted to always have wanted to constantly evolve within our four walls and also to do other things. And so we've always done that. There've been lots of different businesses over the years, and then there's been some family reorganizations and different members ended up with different parts of that. But um it has always been about what can we do better tomorrow? What can we do differently tomorrow? And so but and people even would always ask, was there pressure, being Ella Brennan's daughter? And I just never felt that, or I didn't maybe allow myself to think that way. I just needed to be the best version of me and learn as much as I could from her. And that's what I did. I just didn't go there. And so same thing in business. If you're not always pressuring yourself, something's wrong,
Yeah,
you know?
and defining your own brand, right? And people are gonna expect things from you, and you pave your
Yeah.
own path.
Right, and we wanna lead, so, what does that look like every single day, Everybody,
Yeah,
people sitting right here, right now, I'm looking at them going, "What are we
yeah,
doing to lead in our city, our industry, and our community?"
and leading you are. So I see James Beard Foundation Awards, Who's Who of Food and Beverage Award, Outstanding Service Award, Outstanding Restaurant Award. Your chef received a Best Chef Southeast Region, in 1999, and then your mother, Lifetime Achievement Award. I mean, these are a lot of serious things
Yeah.
that really, we always say like awards don't define places and people. And this industry, I think, has kind of a love hate relationship with all these different types of awards and accolades. But the reality is that is also what inspires to a certain extent people who want to work in the industry, people who want to grow in the industry, people who want to work for you, who want to potentially relocate to New Orleans to experience, what you and others have created in the community. How have you seen kind of talent evolve over the years, as far as people wanting to work in hospitality, in restaurants, and the level of them coming in?
Yeah. First, I have to go back to the awards and say, "We need to make a list of how many times we didn't win," okay? So, because I was sitting there all those nights too. Um, and we'll take all the awards they're giving out, but we're only as good as the last meal we served, and that's how we operate. But as far as the talent coming in, it really did change. Somewhere around the time I was coming in, we started to get, I remember we hired a GM here um, that, had an MBA and, what, and that was just unusual because as you were sort of alluding to earlier, I mean, a lot of people's parents tried to talk them out of coming into our industry. And but what I always like about it is there's no limits in our industry. I mean, you just pick them. You name the leaders in this industry, and half of them started in fast food or some little place, you know. So that's one of the great things that you well know about our industry. But the level of talent and just really bright people who saw all the different things you can do. I mean, there's so many different avenues, whether you go food in the sports and food the hotel, you know, whatever. There's so much that you can do. That started to change. I'm gonna say mid-90s, you know, big time, and
Yeah.
it's been great. But I don't care because I mean, I do love it if somebody shows that stick-to-itiveness to have had some education and been lucky enough to have that opportunity. You do not have to have that. Even as a person who founded a culinary and hospitality school, it's really all about that person, and you've got to teach yourself, and you've got to keep going, and your get up and go, your ambition.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this industry accepts and welcomes from every direction. And folks, it's a rare industry where you can come in any from anywhere with any background, and do some really wonderful things, and make a real impact, to your community, to yourself, long term, etc.
Yeah.
So I want to latch on to, you casually talking about the school that you created. Um, tell me a little bit more about how that came about.
Well, I certainly didn't do it alone, and a lot of people in this community had wanted to do it for a long time, and a lot of us came together to do it, and I did it with my cousins, Dickie and my cousin-in-law, George Brower, and Carol Markowitz, but I mean, everybody around here helped. I mean, Emeril helped, and Donald Link helped, and Susan Spicer's, on our board, and every time we need something, raising her hand. She's amazing. So everybody has come together to do this, and it was just kind of like, why don't we have, you know, kind of a major culinary school? And this thing is 93,000 gleaming square feet of $5 million of equipment that the industry gave us for free. So it was and is a passion project, but for me, it brought together my industry, my city, and my family, and all that makes me happy. So
Yeah, I mean, and it's obviously no easy feat. And as you mentioned, folks coming together and helping. That's another thing I highlight about this industry is, everyone comes together for the
yeah,
greater good of the industry.
yeah,
And
yeah,
sometimes you forget just to ask for help or just to, pick up the phone and be like, hey, what do you think about this? You want to
yeah.
do it?
Well, and I need to say about Nikki, we did some research about which way the industry and the education was going, and it was, the 2 and 4 years of very expensive education is tough. A lot of people can't pull it off. So we want you to go to college, but if you don't, this is the 6 months of just culinary. So it's much less expensive, about 17 grand. A lot of folks can get a lot of scholarships, and it's 6 months. And plus, it's from 7 a.m. to 2. You can go work at night. It's tough. It'll be a tough 6 months of your life, but it was set up to do that. It's my understanding, that there are, a bunch of other major culinary schools gonna go in this direction now. So, we're very, excited to learn that, to understand that, other folks are feeling like this is the path, for our
Things are
industry.
changing, right?
Yep,
Things keep
yep,
evolving, keep
yep,
changing, and that, is a wonderful thing.
yep.
And this industry is somewhat AI proof, technology proof. So, there's going to be a growing need, and I think, in general, it's folks like you, you in particular, who've created this community and this environment that gets people excited. And people are more interested in figuring out how can they couple something that they love or they enjoy, they're interested in with a living, right? How can they
So,
do that?
to me, the most exciting thing in the world is business, and within business, creating something out of nothing. Okay. Now that could be a new project we're doing here at the restaurant, where, our accounting office is now Le Petit Bleu Cafe and Creperie in Marche. We created something out of that was an accounting office. I mean, the accountant's still mad about it. She doesn't prefer her new office, but we took that and created something, and now it's such a big part of us. Or it's just a new project within the restaurant. We do this thing called Aqua Blue U. It's training. It's going on right now. We have something called Captain Boot Camp going on right now, where people who want to be a captain are getting intense training to be able to move up to that level. We have a quartermaster sommelier coming here to teach too. So anyway, to me, it's just that you can you can make your job as creative as you want it to be. You know, you do not have to stay in this little box. You just start doing a little something over here, something little, and then somebody like me knows, wow, Emma just made her box this much bigger, and I didn't even tell her to do that. That's how it happens, you know, and that's what's
Yeah.
so thrilling to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna latch onto that because those are, that's like on the job training, if you will, or not really on the job, but it sounds like you have specifically carved out training opportunities for people. Tell me a little bit about that within your own organization.
Well, a million years ago, I took a quartermaster sommelier class just on a whim, and I'm like, well, damn, we need to give this to our people. So I said, okay, I'm gonna pick 10 people, and you get to, whatever process, you get to go to it. You pay for it. If you pass, I'll reimburse you. Well, that just lit a fire. And it just, we've had now hundreds of people do that. And then we'd always done, good training in our company, but we've really tried to focus on that. And when it's the slower times in the summer is when we do a lot of it. We have it going on all year long. There's wine classes every Tuesday and all this stuff happening. But lots of training for management and the team during the summer. And we call it Aqua Blue U. And it's a little different, every summer. I mean, of course, we're teaching you things about the industry. We're also gonna teach you about finance. What's the best way to buy a car? What's the best way to buy a house? What's the we so we believe in it, and, who learns the most? Teacher or the student? So, for the most part, the management teaches, and so they're learning as they, go to do these
Yeah.
classes. We're very, very invested in it, and it's
Yeah.
going great, right? I'm very excited about Captain Boot Camp right now.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, that's a great example of, how, first of all, I'm sure the team and folks who are going through this training are getting really valuable life lessons and
Right.
skills, right?
Yeah,
And the fact that, there's the hospitality portion and there's the training that you need to do your job, but then how about to like thrive as a person, right? Some stuff is not obvious. It's
right,
not
and they're
intuitive.
not all gonna stay forever. I mean, if we ever lots of places can say this and do this, but I mean, the alumni that come back to me that are judges and doctors and entrepreneurs and say, T and Lally and Meg, the lessons that I learned there about teamwork, and because we everything we do is as a team. Our service thing is a team, our whole manage thing is a team, and then it's the way we learn to work with people and lead and all that just helped in whatever career they went on to.
That's incredible, and we talked about this prior when we were chatting, is that, in this industry, it's the largest first employer, and, people go on to do incredible things,
Right.
whether it's within the industry, some sort of industry adjacent, or outside of the industry, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the lessons they're learning and the experiences they're having here, build the foundation of, whatever they're building upon,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. One of
that
the
must
things
make
I
you feel
like to
great.
ask people, is, are you coachable? I'm coachable. Emily's sitting right here. She coaches me all the time, I can assure you. But people, if you're not coachable, you're in trouble. And people need to really think about that, because if you're just going to be a lone ranger, you better pick a different career.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just hospitality. I mean, I feel like that's like, that advice serves somebody well
Right.
regardless
It, absolutely.
of what they're
You know,
doing.
I love that you had asked me about questions, and I'm probably screwing up your order here, but, you
Oh,
know,
I'm not even looking at my questions,
okay,
honestly.
awesome. I'm not looking at my answers. But, I also love to say to people, have you had your best year yet? And very interesting to hear the answers to that. And I always hope everybody says no, because it's kind of sad. And we all have people we know who peaked a little early, that superstar in high school that you're like, well, so you want to constantly, just be pushing forward. And, those are the things that I'm looking for, things like that. And things like besides integrity, trust is something that takes a long time to earn and a short time to lose. But the second most important thing is intellectual curiosity. Are you curious? Do they come in the interview? If they don't have any questions for me at all, I'm like, "Ruh-roh." You know what I mean? So, those are the things that I like to look for. So, I don't know, I like to really try to get to know somebody, and the interviews are pretty long, and I'm just really trying to understand what drives them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important because so much of, you have different types of skills. There's technical skills, but then there's all these soft skills, and it's really difficult
Right.
to try to extract or try to get a feel,
Yeah.
about somebody
Right.
in a short amount of time, right? And if
Right.
you think about it, it's like when you buy a house, some of the I mean, it's kind of an analogy, but not, but baffled me that, like, you see something for really quick, and then you're, like, gonna make this huge decision
Right.
to move forward, and you, like, only saw it for 10 or 15 minutes and, like, opened a couple of doors and asked
It's
some
true.
questions,
It's
right?
true.
Um
So if you get to some of those questions, I'll say, what do you do on an ideal day off when you don't have to do any errands or do anything you don't want to do? And if they tell me they basically sleep all day, I mean, and say, I'm just so tired from work that I sleep all day. I'm like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. If you lazy on your day off, I think you're gonna be lazy at work. I mean, you know, my life experience has shown that. Maybe it's not true for everybody, but yeah, so I try to get into those questions to understand, and when you're talking about who you admire most and why, then you kind of see where they're coming from.
Yeah, I like
Um,
that, who you admire most and why.
yeah,
I often ask, "What's your favorite, like, restaurant or, you know,
yeah,
dish to cook or whatever?" And then,
right,
oftentimes, especially in this industry, the way that somebody responds, like, you could see their face light up when they
yeah,
start describing, whatever
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
These little things, I guess I guess the takeaway there for managers who are hiring managers is, like, try to come up with questions that could reveal, um the
Bingo.
what you're trying to find, the
Exactly.
personality, the feeling, the
Exactly.
core of that
Right.
person.
And one of mine is, I would say, if you could do anything you wanted, it's a magic wand thing. Yeah, and if you were asking me if you could do anything you wanted in your life and career, what would it be? You don't have to worry about time, space, and money. Now I might tell you I'm keep doing exactly what I'm doing, or I might say I would like to be the coach of the women's Olympic volleyball team. I mean, whatever it is, when you get those answers, and I share that example with them, it's very interesting what you
Mhm.
get. And somebody think, well, I really want to write a Broadway play. I'm like, that's cool. I mean, you know what I mean? That's not gonna not fit in our industry, and I love knowing that about them, you know?
Yeah,
So,
and that was one of the things I was just leading a panel yesterday about leadership with a bunch of chefs, and a common thread was just leading by example, right?
yeah,
So often sometimes even sharing a storytelling was another thing, is it's sometimes sharing a story about yourself, whether it was, a lesson learned, the
right.
best thing or whatever, kind of opens up the aperture and kind of makes things, a little bit more easy for the other
Absolutely.
side to come forth as well. I
Absolutely.
love it. These like tips of how to identify potential, leaders or great fits for your
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
Um, do you have you talked about training and you have all of these opportunities for folks on your team. Do you have any I would say other ways that you motivate? Like, do you have some teams have, like, retreats or they have, specific, fun days together. Do you have any, special things you do to keep your team motivated?
Sure, we do awards, and there's this thing called Summit Supper, and we do a crawfish boil, and then, really great awards, and there's an award in the kitchen, and there's the only one with has a plaque, and it's called "A Fanatical Commitment to the Consistent Execution of the Fundamentals." Okay? And only
Say
3
that 10
people
times.
have ever won. I can say it and done.
I
But
I
anyway,
know you can.
only 3 people have ever won it, and it's a big, big deal. So those type of things, but Imma tell you something, it's not about one day where you go off. I am the biggest believer in the world in very, very good pre-meal meetings, and they need to be motivational and informative. Occasionally you got to hold the whole group accountable for something, and it's a little bit tougher, but you've got to inform and motivate in those. And it's kind of perfect for the way the world is now because everybody, has no attention span. 15 minutes, if every business in the world had 15 minutes a day, twice a day to talk to their team, wow, what you can do with that, it's like perfect. And the businesses in our industry that find excuses to not do that well, not do it at all, they're just foolish.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. On all fronts, the attention span and
Yeah.
also, having an opportunity to get everyone on the same page,
Right, right. You're the coach. You're coming out, the field after halftime. It's dinner time now. Are you going to say something motivating to them, or are you going to let them just walk out? I mean,
Yep.
come on, but if you're not willing to take the time to be prepared to do that, shame on you.
And I mean, now I have to ask, how do you keep yourself motivated and inspired?
I mean, I get inspiration from like everywhere, you know, just from, but I read, and let me tell you something else. I listen. So we were trying to come up with this event, which we had last night, which was absolutely nuts. Um, it's hard to explain, but everybody was dressed up like Dolly Parton. But anyway, one of our managers said one day in a meeting, she said, and she had come from Chicago like 5 years ago. She goes, I don't know. I just never seen a restaurant where more people like to come in here with something on their head, like a hat or a decoration or a costume, and I'm like, you make a good point. And so we decided to lean into the costume thing, that had to marinate in my little brain for a minute, but I was listening, you know what I mean? And then we kept going back to that as we decided what to do. So anyway, I get inspired by my own team. I get inspired, but I do just read, in every way I can. And you know what? I really love biographies, autobiographies and biographies. Like my favorite one ever, Catherine Graham. Oh my God, Alice, if you haven't read that, have you read that?
No,
You
no.
got to read that. So
Add it to my list.
she owned the Washington Post. She didn't try to, she just ended up with it. And she was there when Watergate was happening, and she had to make all the decisions on what they were going to do in that situation. Now, I'll be goddamn, that was a hell of a thing. So I love reading how she made it through all that. Um, and I had the great good fortune to meet her here having dinner with my mother one night. But anyway, um, so lucky me.
Wow. Wow, yeah. I mean, I heard a couple things like listening, I think is so important. You got that right on the head. Oftentimes now we talk about generational diversity in the kitchen and how, some of the newer folks coming in who grew up in a different time, um, you know, need different things than perhaps somebody who's been in there for quite some time or who have different experiences. And as a leader, it's important to understand that, listening from all directions, whether
Yeah.
it's from the guests or from, your own team and doing it, intentionally has a lasting impact, across the board.
Yeah. There's a Harvard business theory called MBWA. Sounds like it's something really fancy, but what it stands for is management by walking around. Because they were referring to people up in some cubicle in some high rise and not connecting with their people. And so, as you, it, Walt Disney used to say, later in his life that he would just walk around the Imagineers and he was just sprinkling magic dust. He was motivating them, and you know what I mean. And you just have to understand that every interaction you have matters. Good or bad. If I ever get a little bit upset and intense, it would never go anything beyond. Now, listen, we need to talk about that. You know what I mean? I'm doing it on purpose. I've not just lost control. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
whatever you do, you have to try to realize how much you can impact other people. And that's not just me. That's any single person working here. You're affecting everybody around you, you know?
Yep. The ripple effects.
Yeah.
The ripple effects of actions and words,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
well, on that note, I'm gonna go to quick fire questions.
Oh Lord. Okay.
What advice would you tell your younger self?
I actually took all the advice anybody ever gave me. And discipline is a good thing. And if you're gonna have a really bad day, you might say, well, you know what? At least I exercised this morning, you know? So have some discipline in your life.
What's your advice for someone struggling in the industry?
If you're struggling with the hours or the nights or the weekends or whatever, if that's what you're that part of the industry that does that, don't do it. If you're gonna fight it, this is not the industry for you. My contention was always that, the party doesn't really get going until a little bit later anyway. So I didn't feel like I missed much. So, and I don't need to go to every single party. So, but if you're fighting this industry, it might not be for you.
What's your advice for fellow hospitality leaders?
Let's make it about hospitality. Let's have that as the true focus, not just words coming out of your mouth. It's the hospitality industry. But if you go Google that, you'll get something about management courses at Cornell or something. I mean, it. it needs to be about how we make people feel. In our business, we're in the business of creating dining memories. So let's make it about hospitality truly. And if we do that, we can lead the world in that.
Wonderful. On that note, T, thank you so much for taking time from your busy day to join us today and share your advice and experience. I know we could probably talk for hours and hours, but maybe there's a show 2, 3, 4. But thank you again.
Thank you, Alice. Thanks for having me.
Remember, success looks different for everyone in hospitality. No two paths are the same. If you have a leader or a topic you want to hear about, email media@culinarｙagents.com. Hospitality on the Rise is brought to you by Culinary Agents, connecting top talent with employers since 2012. Whether you're hiring or looking for your next opportunity, join us at culinaryagents.com. For more inspiration, subscribe to Hospitality on the Rise and visit hospitalitycareerpaths.com, a free platform by Culinary Agents. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. And if you love this episode, share it with someone who could use a little inspiration.